Hi everyone. Today we are going to see about what are the top 25 interview questions for a business analyst. Okay. So first is we are going to start with scenario based questions. So first question is, can you tell me about how did you gather requirements from stakeholders? So this is the very first question we are going to ask, because if you are going to be a business analyst, then the expectation is you are going to gather requirements from stakeholders, right? So what should be your answer? Your answer should be, yeah, I am a liaison. Okay, this is the word. Okay, LIAS. I am a liaison between business owners. Okay, liaison between business owners and development team. So when we say development team, it is developers and testers. Okay, that is development team. So what's a liaison? Liaison is nothing but a bridge. Okay, so you are bridging that gap between the development team and the business owners. So have you gathered requirements? Yes. So you'll be the primary person for gathering the requirements from the stakeholders. So apart from business analyst, will anybody gather requirements? No. So business person will be the primary person, point of contact for gathering the requirements. That will be a primary role and responsibility. So they can ask these questions in different method also. What was your role and responsibility as a business analyst? Okay, so a primary role and responsibility is to gather requirements. Okay, so the same question they can ask you in a different way as well. So you have to say that, yeah, I am always use the word I, not we. Okay, I was responsible. I am a liaison between business owners and development team. Don't say we in the interview. It is always like I was responsible. I documented. I did this task. That's how you say in the interview. It means that you were responsible for that particular task. Okay, so that's the way you have to tell in the interview. I was responsible. I was a liaison between business owners and development team. So next is, okay, now you gather requirements. What are the techniques you used? Second question is, what are the techniques you used to gather the requirements? So there are various different techniques. I have already made a video about what are the different techniques. Okay, if you have not watched that video, you can go and watch that video. But the primary technique will be brainstorming sessions, focus groups, interviews, okay, and then surveys. So these are the primary techniques. So there are different techniques. There are about 50 different techniques, but the most important technique is brainstorming, focus group, interview, and surveys. So brainstorming means what you do, you invite all the stakeholders and you just ask them randomly about the topic, and they give you ideas how we can solution for this project. So that is brainstorming. Focus group is you actually pick up a topic on what you need to talk about and you facilitate that meeting. Okay, so earlier itself you will tell we are going to talk about this topic only. So difference between brainstorming and focus group is, in brainstorming everybody will be there, but you won't have like a definite topic. Okay, everybody will throw their ideas, whereas focus group is not like that. We'll choose a topic and you will be the one who will be like organizing it, and you will always like focus on certain questions and you will lead that conversation or lead that meeting. Okay, so that's the difference between brainstorming and focus groups. Interviews, it's one-on-one. So you will call a particular stakeholder and you'll have a list of questions prepared earlier before the meeting, and then you need to throw that questions to them, and or you can always email those questions prior, and so that they have researched about those questions. So they are well prepared for that session with you, and they'll be able to answer you. So, and then surveys is for like large number of people. If there are many people and you don't have time and you want to get their opinions, what they think, in that case you can do surveys. So these are the 4 important techniques you can use to gather requirements. Okay, so these 2 are very, very important interview questions. Next one is, have you ever seen a situation where the requirements changed? This you will see it very frequently. So changing requirements constantly, okay? Changing requirements constantly. So if you see in any project, right, when the business owners, they give you requirements, when a business owner is saying, I need a website for my restaurant, will he know everything about that? If you ask him the very first meeting, if you ask like, okay, how do you want that website for your restaurant, can he give you every single detail of that, how he wants? No, right? He will blankly tell you, I need a website, that's all I know. He's not a technical person, so he will only give very, very high level what he wants. But it is your responsibility to ask those detailed questions. Okay, now you need a website. Okay, what are the menus that should be there in that website? How you want the website to be? What color you want it? What's the, and whether you want the customer to log in, whether you want that customer to place online order, whether you want the price to be shown in that menu, whether you want the ingredients to be shown in that menu. So all the details he cannot give you because he's not a technical person. He only will say, I want this product, that's all. But it's your responsibility to gather the requirements. So in this phase, when you gather requirements, right, today they will be like, oh no, I want this functionality be in the first page. Okay, then after 2 days they'll change their mind. They will be again like going, okay, I don't want that, and I want this feature to be in the first page. So these business owners are like, they will definitely change. This will come in experience. You will see that they will constantly change their requirements. But how can we handle that? That comes like, that is how a BA skill is there. Okay, so you have to, in the very first meeting itself, or before even you schedule the meeting, you need to shoot an email to them stating that what's the purpose of this requirement, why are you doing this project. Okay, so why are you doing, whether you to increase customer satisfaction, or whether to increase your revenue, whether to decrease the cost whatever you are already having, or what is the purpose. Depending upon the purpose of that project, you if you have enough experience, right, you know like what questions you can throw to them. But if you are a brand new BA and you don't have any idea how that project is going to be, what he's asking, what that person is asking for, even in that case, you need to like put down a list of questions and ask that how you want that. And you have to clearly tell them that requirements can be changed. Okay, but first initial few sessions we are doing that solutioning, and then we can change requirements, that's fine. But once you document a BRD, okay, once you are finalizing the BRD is business requirement document, okay, that will be written by the BAs. Once you have written the BRD, once you've documented everything in the BRD, that's the final document, approval. Okay, that the business owner has to sign off and give the approval. Once this approval is done, we are not changing any requirements. Okay, so we are not changing the requirements. After you write the BRD, during development, if the business owners wants to change anything, right, then they have to go through a process called change request process. That's called change request process. It means they have to again resubmit. They have to put as a request saying that I want to change this particular functionality. So that will be like different documentation. That will not come under initial project. Okay, this will be like a separate project only. So the very first, before you write the BRD, you gather requirements, you write the BRD, you give it to them for review, and they review it and they provide the sign off. That's done. That's the first phase. After, while during development and all, if they want to change something, then we have to go to a process called change request process. Change request process is they're saying like we want to change in this process, so what we have to do. So we'll ask them to submit the ticket for us, and then again you will update the BRD accordingly, but that will be coming under different budgeting. So the budget for that and also the timeline for that will change, right? Because initially we agreed upon something, now they're changing again and again. now the budget for that project and timeline. Okay, because this is a new development they're going to give us, the timeline will also change. So if the interview, if they ask you how did you like when they're constantly changing, what's the process you follow, you have to say that's followed through change request process. And so they have to again submit the ticket for us for any change, and we will again rewrite the BRD. And depending upon we will discuss internally with our developers and testers and how we can take this forward, this request is possible or not. If it's possible, and if the additional budgeting is available or funding is available for that project, definitely we can do that change. But if they're constantly changing, okay, you are again developing, again they're changing, again developing, no, that we are not doing. Okay, so you have to be very firm with them, because they cannot waste our time. And this is like money, right? Money, budget is involved, so they cannot be wasting money, right? So you can always have to set standards in the very first meeting itself. Change is fine, but to what level and what extent. And next is BRD. I have told you, very very important skill for a business analyst is documenting a BRD. BRD is business requirement document, and you need to know the basics of how to write a BRD, what's the format of a BRD, what are the different how to write requirements in the BRD. I have made a separate video on this. If you have not watched it, please go and watch that, how to write a BRD. I've clearly told if it's a BRD document, what are the sections you need to document. So this is one of the very very primary skill. Documentation is very important, and you have to say yes. If you say I don't know how to write a BRD, nobody is going to hire you, for sure. Nobody is going to hire you. So you have to definitely say that yes, I know how to write a BRD, and then you have to tell with examples. Example in the sense like you already learn like what are the sections it should be there in the BRD, and you say that okay, these are the sections, essential sections I have written in the BRD, and very important like version control and business requirements and like samples, or how to draw process flow diagrams in that document. Everything you have to like explain in detail to them. Don't just say yes, I know how to BRD. That's, you don't answer like that in an interview. In an interview, how you need to answer is always with examples. Okay, yes, I know to write a BRD, I have documented a BRD. Let me tell you what are the sections in the BRD and how I have documented it. So that's always go with examples. Fifth question is, how will you convert requirements into user stories? So now some people will directly jump into agile questions. If you are following waterfall methodology, you won't be having user stories, right? So it's only directly requirements, and requirements will be given to development team and they will develop. But if your team is following agile methodology, then in that case, if it is agile methodology, definitely they will be asking you, so you get the requirements from the business owners. Now how will you convert into a user story? So I have put a detailed video on how to write a user story in Jira. It's in my Jira training video. You can go and watch that. You have to tell me an example. Okay, so the requirement is to create a login feature. So if the requirement is used to create a login feature, now how to write user story for that? You have to put the summary, you have to put the description, and then you have to write the acceptance criteria. Okay, for every user story there should be a summary, there should be a description, and then there should be acceptance criteria. Okay, so this also an example only you have to give. I have converted requirements into user stories. Let's take a login page example, or you can take any example, whatever, depending upon the company you're applying, right? Your company is something, a healthcare company. Okay, then you give a healthcare example. Your company is a retail company, you give a retail example. Your company is a banking company, you give a banking example. That's how you have to impress the interviewer. So don't give login page example, that's very basic, but you can always give related to whatever company you're applying, right? According to that, okay, according to that you have to give an example. Next is how do you coordinate with your development team regarding the requirements. So once you have documented all your user stories or requirements, now what you do, you have to explain the requirements to your developers, right? So you have to sit and do the designing or solutioning sessions with them. Okay, solutioning sessions. And then once that is done, you have to discuss with your developers and testers, and then you have to explain them all the requirements. Once you explain the requirements with them, once they understand, right, only then you're going to, if they have any questions, again you go back to the business owners and then ask them, like, my developer is having such a question, so what should we do now? My tester is having these questions, what do you know now? So whether the developers and testers directly talk with the business team, no, you will be the primary contact person who will be talking with the business team. They will be talking, developers and testers will talk to you only, BA only, and business people also will talk to BA only. So they don't talk directly, that's there. Okay, always developers will talk through business analyst people only. So you can say that, yeah, this is how I created requirements, and I am the primary person responsible for coordinating with my development team. Next is, what are the tools? Now you know you have documented all the requirements. Now what are the tools that, as a BA, what are the tools you use? So very first tool for documentation, I already told you, this is Jira. Jira for documenting all your user stories, your task, epics, and defects. So this is the tool you will use. And then you will also use Confluence for documenting all your requirements, all your meeting notes. Okay, requirements and then meeting notes. For all that you will be using Confluence. So these two tools are very important. Apart from that, if you are using SQL, then you'll be using maybe SQL Studio Management. Yeah, those kind of tools are some kind of technical tools, but the most common tools are Jira and Confluence for sure. And you may be using Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft PowerPoint. So these you can see. And reporting, if they want some kind of reporting skills, then you can, if you have done reporting, then you can say Tableau. But just for a plain BA, they will be, this is fine. Okay, now we go to 8th question, that is what Agile related. Okay, what is Agile methodology? What is the difference between waterfall and Agile? So I have already told in my Agile training that Agile methodology is nothing but it's a short-term development. Okay, so any kind of project, if it's done between 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks sprint time, so that is Agile. Okay, and there are in Agile itself we have two methodologies. One is Kanban and Scrum. They may ask you what's the difference between Kanban and Scrum, but mostly companies are following Scrum. Okay, so Scrum methodology is the most popular one. In Scrum we have Scrum Masters, product owners. Okay, these are the team for if your project is using Scrum methodology, then these people will definitely be there. Okay, Scrum Master and product owner, business analyst, developers, and testers. So if they ask what is Agile methodology, you can always say your team was using Scrum, and Scrum methodology, it's a short term. It can be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, and within that short term time period, our development team will develop the product, test the product, and will deploy it to production. That is Agile methodology. Next is, what's the difference between waterfall and Agile? Waterfall is there is no timeline. Okay, it can be 6 months, 8 months. There is no timeline. For Agile, we call it as sprints. Okay, so we call it as sprints. It is either 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, depending upon your team. Okay, so next question is sprint. Sprint is nothing but a timeline where within that timeline, development, testing, within that 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you need to do the development, you need to do the testing, and deployment to production. That is sprint. What's the definition of sprint? It's a timeline. Okay, it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. Within that time, development is done, testing is done, and deployment also is done. That is sprint. What is sprint planning meeting? So sprint planning meeting is nothing but a meeting where everybody will get together. Scrum master, product owner, developer, tester, business analyst, everybody will get together and they will plan. They will plan like how many stories are required for next sprint. How many stories are required for next sprint. So every sprint, right, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we will have this sprint planning meeting and we will decide like for the next upcoming sprint, how many user stories each developer or each BA or each tester, right, how many user stories we are going to take, okay, for the next upcoming sprint. That is sprint planning meeting. So to understand sprint planning meeting, you need to understand what is a user story, what is an epic, what is a task, what is a defect. Please watch my Agile training videos. It will be very helpful. I have put videos on each and every topic here. So it will be very helpful. Those videos are in detail and I have showed in screen also like how to document this in Jira. So please watch what is user story, how to write a user story, what is an epic, what's the difference between epic and user story. I have put the difference also. So watch that video. Next is, what is sprint review meeting? Sprint review meeting is nothing but you will invite all the stakeholders, all the business owners and the stakeholders. Okay, so stakeholders in the sense anybody who is involved in the team is called a stakeholder. Business owners, developers, testers, everybody, scrum master, product owner, project manager, everybody is a stakeholder. So sprint review meeting means everybody, you will call all the business owners, development team and scrum master, project manager, everybody, business analyst, everybody will be there in the meeting and you will discuss about how that sprint went, whether that sprint had positives or negatives, whether there were so many defects identified, whether there was a lot of defects, whether those defects were critical. So you will be talking in detail about how that sprint went and then based upon that you will be writing down what are the actions that needs to be taken for the next sprint. Okay, that is sprint review meeting. What is sprint retrospective meeting? Sprint retrospective meeting is an internal meeting. It's not with the business owners. It's internal development team meeting. Internal development team meeting. Okay, so that this internal meeting is within your team only, scrum master, product owner and developers, BA and testers. That's all. Internal team, you will discuss what went well, what did not go well in that particular sprint. That is sprint retrospective. Whereas sprint review means you will invite everybody, all the business people, stakeholders, everybody. That is sprint review meeting. They may ask you the difference, you can explain this. And then next question is how to calculate story points. So each user story should be given a point. Okay, so as told earlier, story points can be Fibonacci series 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 and 13 and it goes. It is a Fibonacci series. So in order to understand story points, you need to know what is a user story. So please watch my Agile training video to see what is a user story, how to write that. And in that video, I have also explained like how to give story points and what is the basis. For example, one story point is 1 day, 2 story point means it takes 2 days for the developer to develop. So it depends from project to project, but the standard is one story point is 8 hours. Okay, one story point means the development time is 8 hours, two story point means 16 hours. So it's a basic calculation, but it will differ from team to team and project to project. So that's how you calculate story points. You can always say story points are by Fibonacci series and story points are being calculated by the entire team, not only BA, but everybody, developers, testers, everybody will join and they have to discuss, okay, whether this work will take 1 day or 2 day or 3 day. And then based upon that, we will give story points. Next is what is sprint velocity. Sprint velocity means, suppose if the sprint is only 2 weeks, okay, you have a 2 week sprint. In that 2 week, how many we have only 10 days, right? In 10 days, every day 8 hours is there. So how many user stories you can do? You can do 10, you can do 10 one pointer story, or you can do 5 2 pointer story, or you can do 2 5 pointer story, and then you can do an 8 pointer and a 2 pointer, right? So you have 2 weeks time. The 2 weeks you have 10 days, and every day is considered 1 point. In that 1 point means, like for example, there is, if I am a business analyst, I have 2 weeks of time. In that, how many stories I can take? Either I can take 10 one pointer story, or I can take 2 5 pointer story, or I can take 5 2 pointer story, or I can take 1 8 point and 1 2 point. Understood? So overall the velocity should be 10 points for one person. So what's the velocity means? Depending upon your sprint week. Suppose I have a 3-week sprint, my velocity will change. I have a 4-week sprint, my velocity will change again. So if you ask what is sprint velocity, you can always say that it depends on what is the, like how many weeks the sprint is. If it is 2 weeks, then you have 10 is the velocity. If it is 3 weeks, then if there is a holiday, we don't calculate that day. Okay, we have to remove that points. So if there is a 3-week holiday, 4-week holiday, we have to remove those points and calculate only for the working days. Okay, that is sprint velocity. What is acceptance criteria? So when you write a user story, there is always acceptance criteria, right? What's acceptance? What's the positive scenario and what's the negative scenario? Positive scenario means everything has to go well and the product has to work. It needs to work. Okay, that is positive. If it works means your product is working fine, expected, like the business owners want. If it's working, that's positive scenario. Negative scenario means it's not working, defect, that is negative. So you have to like clearly put out what is acceptance criteria. So if it is working, expected like business owners, what is the expectation? Based upon that your product is working, then that's positive. If it's not working, then that's negative. Okay, so there's a format for acceptance criteria. So you need to use that format, and you can always say an example, like same login feature, right? Like, so for that, acceptance criteria is it should be when you give a valid username and password, the customer can log in. That's positive. And if you don't give if you give valid username and password, and if you're not able to log in, that's a negative scenario. Next, last is behavior questions. So what are your strengths? Definitely they'll ask you what are your strengths. So your strength is, you should always say commitment is your strength. Okay, if you take something, you'll finish it. That's what everybody wants. If you are committed to your project, you're committed to your work, that commitment is very important. And then how you are passionate about your work. Okay, how passionate. So they want you to go through like stressful times, because you're dealing with a lot of, as a business analyst, you'll be talking to a lot of team members, a lot of people, and not everybody will be same, not everybody will be friendly. Some people will have frustrations, some people will be like not very kind or very calm. So in that case, how are you going to handle those stressful situations? How are you going to be diplomatic in that situations? You're not going to scream at them. They are not your family members, keep in mind. They are professional people. We are in a professional environment. So we need to be calm and composed, and we should always be diplomatic in our conversations. Okay, so commitment is very important. You need to be passionate about your work. So when you say passionate, no matter how difficult it is, you are trying to achieve your best. That is being passionate. You're kind, you're calm and composed, and you are very polite in very stressful situations, and you are a thorough professional. You will always have a very professional conversations with your business owners and team members. Okay, so these are your strengths. When we say weakness, you can always say that you always overachieve. Okay, overachieve, you're always getting too much, you work late hours. Okay, that you have to put as weakness. Otherwise, you don't put something really weak. Okay, they don't want to see that. So you're always like overachiever. You like to work late hours. You're not having some work-life balance. So all that can be your weakness. How will you handle negative stakeholders? So I've told you already, negative stakeholder in the sense, these business people or these team members, they are not very cooperative. It could be for any reason. It could be for because they don't want that new project, or it could be like they don't like you. It could be anything. Okay, so how are you going to handle it? So I have already told you need to be very diplomatic in your conversations, and you need to be always goal oriented. Okay, what's the goal for this meeting? The goal for this meeting is to gather requirements. That's all. That is the only thing you have to keep in mind. Do not like focus on the attitude of that stakeholder. Always focus like what you want from them. Okay, so you want to get requirements from them. That's all right. How can you achieve that? And you have to work towards getting that requirements from him. That's all. There is always a way to engage these negative stakeholders. So try to be friendly with them, and if they are totally not cooperative, nobody will be like that. But if they're totally not cooperative, then you can escalate to your project manager. But I would always recommend to be goal focused, and always be professional and diplomatic, and try to get always results oriented. Okay, that is very important. You need to be results oriented during the conversations with the negative stakeholders. Make sure you get what you want from them. Okay, results oriented. Definitely you can handle the negative stakeholders. And if you are looking for an entry level, they don't ask you this, can you lead a project? But if you're going for a senior BA position and they want you to be the lead, then they definitely ask, can you lead a project? What I would say is, if you want to get a job interview and want to have any kind of experience, just say yes, I can lead a project, because you would have had some very different stressful situations at your home. Okay, you would have handled much stressful times at your home, during school, during college. So you always have the capacity to lead. Okay, don't think that you don't have the capacity. You can always have the capacity. When you are put in such situations, that automatically that skill will come and you will manage that situation. So you can always say, yes, I can lead. Don't be fearful. You can always say that I can lead a project. Are you capable of coordinating with multiple teams? So if it's going to be a bigger project, you need to coordinate with multiple different teams or different company or different vendors. So you have to say, yes, I have the capacity. I can coordinate with on-site, offshore people, multiple teams, multiple companies, multiple vendors, different geographical locations, different time zones. Yes, I'm capable of coordinating with multiple teams. Answer should always be yes. Have you identified any risk in your project? Yes. So identifying risk is one of important BA's work. Identifying risk. If you think that this project is not going in a right direction and you have constant problems, okay, doing requirement gathering or during development, you'll always identify the risk and escalate the risk to the project manager. So this is a very, very important question. Have you identified any risk? You can always say, but better if you put in technical terms, right? Yes, I have identified a risk because we are not able to have the test data. I have identified a risk because we didn't have enough developers, or I have identified a risk where the business owners told us there was a requirement gap where the business owners wanted something and the developers were developing something. So there was a risk identified, or there was a timeline delay. So we identified risk. So you need to definitely say yes to this question. I have identified risk and documented those risks and escalated to my managers. Do you have positive attitude? Of course, BA should have a positive attitude. And even if you have the worst situation in the office, you should always be positive about that. At least you have a job and you are in a very good company working as a business analyst. And if you have only positive attitude, you will get the job as a BA. Okay, BA's work is always to be very positive. Even in any negative situations, you need to be as much as positive. You need to be positive. Okay, so for this question, you should be saying, yes, I am always positive. No matter how stressful the situation is, I'm always positive. That's how you need to answer. I hope this video is helpful. Thanks for watching.